It's easier to do this and use my thumbs and type this out, so I'll just make this and post it. Just quick background. My dad was an anti-vaxxer. He passed away in 2013, but I can remember having multiple conversations with my dad. One time he called me up and out of the blue he asked me, he's like, my daughters were both real young at the time. He's like, are you planning on getting those babies vaccinated? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, Jimmy, don't you dare do that. Don't you put that stuff in them. And I'm like, Dad, look, and he's like, I'm going to send you a bunch of stuff in the mail. You read it, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, fine. End of story. And for about the 15th time, he sends me this big manila envelope just packed full of, like, newsletters and stuff and printed articles from a lot of these homeopathic sites and, these I guess they were physicians. I don't know. It says it. You wonder sometimes, But all that to say that I'm familiar with the way that the anti-vax viewpoint tends to approach things, what they consider authoritative, what's persuasive to people coming from that perspective. And I gotta be honest, I have friends who are doctors. I have friends who are very strongly pro-vaccine, who have actually been pushed quite forcefully away from the conservative side of a lot of things beyond simply just, the whole vaccine thing and COVID thing in an almost visceral way, because they see just a rampant anti-intellectual, anti-elitist, anti-expertise mindset that's taken hold in a large portion of at least the active right politically. It's pushed them leftward, honestly. And that's kind of had a ripple effect in a lot of other issues politically, to where people I would have never thought 5 years ago would be identifying in, multiple ways with a left perspective. They are now. But one of the things I see from those people I know and as people I follow is a consistent theme. And that is, it's like they're trying to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks to, try to get people who are on the anti-vax spectrum to see that they're wrong. And it spans the whole gamut from, would you please just read this article, or hey, look at this study, or to flat out, you retards are killing the human race and destroying civilization as we know it, and it's all your fault, and I hope you all fall off a cliff. And the sooner we can drive you out of power and get some reasonable heads in control of things, the better. Yeah, small wonder that doesn't persuade anybody. So, if you're on that end, what I'm saying here is not, it's going to go, right, who cares, and I'm not being an apologist for anybody. I'm just making an observation and an appeal, which is, ask yourself a basic question. What is my goal to persuade? Because if that's your goal, then it should be obvious by now. You're not achieving it. You're not persuading anybody. At least not the people you need to persuade to actually change anything. And so, if you want to persuade, this is one guy in West Virginia. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm not a sociologist. I don't have reams of data to back this up. I'm just speaking as somebody who, like I said, has come from a background where I know a lot of people who see things from the anti-vax side of things. Basically, it comes down to this. You have to make your case from scratch. You have to take the raw data comprehensively over time and reestablish the authoritative nature of the case that you want them to accept. And that is going to take time. In other words, what you're doing is you're rebuilding the trust that is by now it should be obvious is not there. And that's true for a lot of reasons, and I'm not blaming any one party for why that is the case now. But regardless of why it is. That is the case. And the only way to change that now is to make the case again. Well, why should I have to make that? Because what you're doing right now isn't working. Now, are you going to persuade the real hardcore people? No. But do you put a vaccine out only if there's a 100% success rate? Well, obviously not. Well, then it's the same principle. You're not going for 100%. You're going for a critical tipping point of the number of people that you're able to persuade, okay, well, all right, maybe it's not, maybe vaccines aren't, a cabal conspiracy to make everybody autistic or whatever. And I'm not trying to caricature anybody, but that's what you have to do. That's what you have to accomplish. You don't have to get 100%. You have to get a critical mass of people. You have to reach a tipping point, and that's not 100%. So it is worth doing, even though you know you're not going to persuade everybody. And the way you're going to do that is, like I said, you have to simply reestablish your argument. Now, in some cases, is that going to mean you're going to have to do some research that's duplicative, that you've already done in the past, that people have already done? I'm hearing complaints about, well, we've already researched, do vaccines cause autism, and why can't that be good? Because it's not good enough. You can wish all day long that that's enough, but apparently it's not. And that's displacing time and resources that could be going to other research that we haven't done yet that we need. And that is absolutely true. But here's the thing. If you don't establish this case, you're never going to get to the point where you get to do that research again. Where you're going to get enough of the population to concede to the fact, okay, these guys know enough about what they're doing apparently, and they're persuasive enough to where I can trust them again, to where I can say, you know what, fine, here's the public funding for that thing that you are convinced is critical and we seem to want also, whether it's new cancer treatments or whatever. So yeah, go ahead. You have proven yourself worthy of being trusted with public money or whatever. But you have to make that case first. Sorry. It's got to be, I know it is. It's maddeningly frustrating. You feel like you're having to do a bunch of work you shouldn't have to do. Well, that's life. You can either commiserate within your community about, the idiocracy that you are presently living in. You can attempt to try to regain access to the levers of power that allow you to simply muscle through what you feel is best for the, for the good of human society. But to that even, I would say, well, look around you and ask yourself, is that working for you? It doesn't seem to be. And you actually will, in the process, create a lot of resentment. Just like there's a lot of resentment on your side for the anti-vax side doing that. Resentment is not a good, it bites you. It comes back around, which we're seeing now. So there's a certain amount of humility that's going to have to come into play here to get this going. But you have to make your case again. Basically pretend that you've been dropped on an alien world populated by humans who don't know anything about germ theory, don't know anything about vaccinations or anything like that, and make the case from scratch. There's another mindset of, well, we'll just let the consequences play out of anti-vaxxers, being in power, and let's see how they like it when all the kids are running around with polka dots on their face and measles and kids in hospitals from vitamin A overdoses and whatever else, and maybe, then let them, then you'll see, and we'll say, see, we told you so. Now you're going to let us be in charge again? You're doctors. You're supposed to be motivated by compassion, the whole Hippocratic Oath. You're supposed to be motivated by do no harm first. That's a child's response. That's a temper tantrum. That's fine. I'm going to pick up my toys and go somewhere else and wait until you really feel sorry. And then maybe if you're nice enough and ask nicely enough, I'll come back and help you out. That's not a mature response. That's a Fox News, MSNBC, throw a fit response. That's The View. That's not a professional response. Because the fact of the matter is, I know that the vast majority of health professionals are in it because they want to help people. So help them. This is what you have to do. It's a long slog, but it's got to happen. And I'm asking you to do it. I'm asking you to not... Please retire this. I can't believe you people are falling for these lies. I can't believe you people are so dense. Can't you see the obviousness of our position? Retire that approach. Because like I said, it's not working. I mean, would you continue to pursue a line of scientific research that keeps demonstrating over and over again that your test tubes are exploding and you're not getting the results that you're after? The hypotheses that are driving the approach that many are using in trying to convince the public to go with the pro-vaccine position, it's failed. And it's not simply because of the overwhelming power of the personality of Trump or RFK or any of them. Like I said, there's multiple factors. But the number one factor is the basic loss of the trust of the authority of established, credentialed expertise. And the only way to get that back in a way that isn't immediately interpreted as authoritarian and totalitarian is to simply make your case. Now, is that a guarantee? No. But I submit to you that that's the most likely way that we avoid a lot of unnecessary sickness and death. I know for my dad, as far off the reservation as he may have been, the one thing he did respect was calm, reasonable, point-by-point argument that respected the intelligence of the listener, made its appeal with multiple, careful, clear argumentation, and then said, okay, now you make up your mind. Respect. That's what that is. And my dad, if he had been exposed to that, if he had maybe a couple of good doctor friends that were willing to sit and make that case, who knows? Maybe he would have changed his mind again. I don't know. But that's the way it's got to happen. There's way too much noise out there right now. And I know that voices can get lost and all that. You got to make the case, man. So, that's all I got to say.